Does the Shohei Ohtani injury bring his price down to a point where the Cardinals might get involved? Let's talk about it today on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. We want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast. Of course, we're on YouTube as well. A lot of people subscribing there, over that 7,500 subscriber mark, which is fantastic. Thank you to all of you who do subscribe. Make sure you're liking and commenting so you're interacting with us there on the YouTube channel. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by Bunches. Download the Bunches app today, and when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. So yesterday, the Cardinals picked up the W in Pittsburgh. They avoid the sweep. They're now 1-5 in Pittsburgh, which is awful. But another strong outing. Let's stay positive. Another strong outing from Zack Thompson, and the bats were alive early on in the game. So we're going to talk more about that game and Thompson specifically in segment 2. But I want to start today talking about the biggest news of Major League Baseball right now, and that is the injury to Shohei Ohtani. I did not really get involved with the Otani trade rumors at the trade deadline because I've said from Jump Street, I didn't think he was going to get traded, that the Angels were going to move him. I couldn't fathom a team coming in with a deal that would just blow the Angels away enough to move him before the deadline, knowing that he'll be a free agent this offseason, that he could walk, and then any team would have a chance to go ahead and try to sign him. So I never really thought that was a possibility. So I never entertained that thought of him leaving or coming to St. Louis, which, sure, I guess the Cardinals had to have a chance to sign him like anybody does. But it didn't seem like something that the Cardinals would be able to keep up with, those major markets, if the money gets to where people thought it was going to be. But then we got the unfortunate news yesterday that Ohtani has a torn UCL. That's the ulnar collateral ligament. In case you were wondering, it's in his pitching elbow, and he had to leave his start against the Reds yesterday because of this injury. They had a doubleheader yesterday. He started game 1 and had to leave the game after an inning and a third. That is a massive blow to not only the Angels, who added pieces to go along with Ohtani, and the returning Mike Trout, who they just got back from the IL on Tuesday, and he's been shut down again due to his wrist issues, because everything's just going wrong for the Angels right now. But the Angels, if you remember, they added impending free agent Lucas Giolito at the trade deadline, CJ Cron, Randall Grichuk, former Cardinal, all brought in to team up with Ohtani and Trout, and now they're in big trouble. This is a huge loss for them and also to the world of baseball, who will now be without the pitching side of Shohei Ohtani for the rest of the season. It's the second time that Ohtani has actually suffered a torn UCL. He had the same injury back in 2018, which forced him to undergo Tommy John surgery and not pitch in 2019. The Angels, though, are waiting for a second opinion. I haven't seen anything new yet today on Ohtani before they decide whether or not he's actually going to undergo surgery. I can't imagine that he doesn't. I don't know how that's possible, but here's the other side of this, is the hitting version of Ohtani, who arguably is the better side of him. He's a very good pitcher, but also an extremely good hitter, right? He is still active. In fact, he hit in game 2 of the doubleheader yesterday against the Reds. Ended up going 1 for 5 in that game. The Angels don't know whether Ohtani will be able to hit the rest of the season or if he'll need an operation that will cause him to shut it down early. If you remember in 2018, he actually suffered the torn UCL on September 2nd and continued to hit the rest of the way. Did the Tommy John surgery on October 1st, and then he was back for the next year, but he couldn't pitch. He only hit. The Cardinals had a similar type of thing go on with them this year with Brendan Donovan. Not the exact same injury. Donovan's was a flexor strain issue, but, he had the inability to throw. He couldn't throw. But it didn't bother him when he was hitting. And he was hitting still pretty darn good. So the Cardinals took advantage of that for a bit before they decided, you know what, the season's toast. Let's go ahead and get you done now. Let's get the surgery over with. That way you're missing less time going into next year. And from everything we've heard, Donovan should be back for spring training next year and shouldn't miss any time. The UCL tear, which is what Ohtani's dealing with, it's the same injury that Bryce Harper had, though. He dealt with that last year, kept him from playing the field after the injury occurred, and he continued to hit the rest of the year last year. And if you remember, he hit awfully well because he was one of the reasons why the Phillies beat the Cardinals in the playoffs last year, and the Phillies ended up going to the World Series against Houston before losing. Now, Harper then had the surgery in the offseason and was out until the beginning of May this year, has not played the outfield, has played 15 games at first base, but he's mostly been a DH. In 93 games this year, he's hitting .299, 12 home runs, 47 driven in. And his OBP is up from last season, but the slugging, the OPS are all down. Is it because of the elbow? Probably a little bit. I'm sure it has an effect on that. But what does this do to the Shohei Ohtani market this offseason? That's the real question here. And for us as Cardinal fans, is this injury enough, knowing that more than likely Ohtani will have surgery and be relegated to strictly DH duties next year? Is this injury enough to have the Cardinals get included in trying to sign him? Now, he was going to be the MVP again this year, still might be, and was set to get the largest contract in MLB history. Now, we've got question marks. Now we don't know what's going to go on with his future because he won't be pitching next season, okay? I can almost guarantee you that. All right? Especially if he has the surgery. We know that. And if he does, from everything I've read, a second Tommy John surgery has a much lower success rate than the first operation, than the first time around. So here's where you are with Ohtani. You've got him now 29 years old. I know he doesn't seem like he's that old, but he is 29, looking at a second Tommy John surgery on his pitching arm, can only DH if he has the surgery. Does that sound like someone that teams would be willing to give $400 million to, $500 million to, which is where people thought his contract was going to be? It could get as high as $500 million. Are they going to do that now? Is somebody still going to throw a contract like that at Shohei Ohtani? It's possible. Or does this crush his market enough that he's forced to sign a smaller deal more annually, say like just throwing it out there, say 3 years, $150 million, okay? $50 million a year, okay? I don't know what he's going to command, but just throwing it out there because $50 million for one guy is crazy, right? But would that be a type of range, 3 years, $150 million, that the Cardinals will be willing to bite on, knowing that you're getting the biggest baseball star in the world, who can only be a hitter, though, next year? And then there's risk that is involved, of course, after that he may not be the same pitcher that he has been when he comes back from the surgery. Again, this is all hypothetical, and this is for entertainment purposes, and I want this to be a fun discussion, so don't get it all bent out of shape in the comments about it. It's just we're having a fun conversation. Hey, would this be something that the Cardinals might get into if his level came down to that? What do you guys think? Just throwing it out there. Would you be willing to do something like that? Hoping Ohtani is ready to pitch in 2025 if he has the surgery. Now, the obvious problem with the Cardinals in this situation is they need pitching now. That they need it for next season. They need it in a really, really bad way. And to spend that kind of money, that exorbitant amount of money, $50 million a year, and not have it go to pitching for next season seems pretty stupid, doesn't it? But at the same time, this is Shohei Ohtani. This is the guy. This isn't some mere mortal. This is the biggest baseball star on the planet. So part of you still has to be like, oh, you could get Ohtani in a Cardinal uniform. Don't you do it? But that's the discussion here. That's the discussion here. And another thing to think about is how is this going to affect the pitching market next year? Because obviously Ohtani was going to be a top name who was as well as the hitter. He's one of the top pitchers. Now he'll be gone. So will this make teams like the Dodgers, who seem primed to make a run at him, will it make them second guess whether or not they should go after him and maybe keep somebody like Julio Urias now, who's supposed to be a free agent from their own rotation? Do they turn their attention towards another big guy like an Aaron Nola or a Blake Snell? Is that something they go to? You know, people might move around. Maybe they're like, well, I'm not sure if I want to get in on the Ohtani thing now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what path you would take if you were in charge. Let's put it this way. 3 years, $150 million for Shohei Ohtani with all the question marks involved. Or do you go down the route that we thought the Cardinals might go in the first place and sign a guy like a Blake Snell and then like a Lance Lynn and then trade for another starter? That kind of combination to rebuild for next year. What would you do? That's what I want to know. One guy who is certainly turning some heads and is making a push for consideration for the rotation next year is Zack Thompson. Zack Thompson picks up another win on Wednesday. We're going to talk about him next on Locked On Cardinals. Okay, Locked On Cardinals fans, I want to tell you about a new app called Bunches. If you haven't heard about it yet, let's discuss. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you can chat about sports in real time. Click the link in the show description below to join the app, or go to the Apple App Store, download Bunches now. And I'm telling you, you're going to love the conversations with other Locked On sports fans. And it doesn't have to be just the Cardinals. I mean, we all like different sports, right? You know, Bunches is the place where all sports fans can go and chat. Like Locked On MLB group chat is on Bunches, obviously. You can go there now and connect with other baseball fans, chat about your favorite team, about the Cardinals, and keep up with the latest MLB news. Have any questions or comments about today's episode? You can chat about it in the Locked On MLB bunch on Bunches. Chat about your team today, every day. That's what we do. Tell a personal story about, what you would do if you were in the situation where John Mozeliak is going to be coming up in this offseason. You know, what would you do? Have a discussion with the Cardinals fans. Obviously, NFL's coming up, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor trade talks with the Indianapolis Colts. Or would you go trade for a running back when it seems like the running back position is becoming less and less important as far as a high-price running back? These are the discussions that you can have. So download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click on the link in the description below to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. The Cardinals battle the Phillies this weekend, and you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. Again, thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Again, comments on YouTube or on Twitter, leave them whenever you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged, whether it's positive or negative. You got concerns, you want me to bring things up on the show, that's the way to get a hold of me, and that's the way that you can get involved. Former first-round pick Zack Thompson. Let's talk about him. Been quite impressive since sliding back into the rotation on August 6th following that Steven Matz injury. And it's been an odd year for the former first rounder who at the start of spring training seemed destined for a huge role in the Cardinals bullpen this year. Those plans got scrapped at the end of April. He goes down to the minor leagues. They want him to work on becoming a starter again. Doesn't find a lot of success down in Memphis. Has to come back up to the team in July. And then Matz goes down. He goes down, and then Thompson has to come back as a starter. Because initially he was just going to be in the bullpen. Boom, right back up into the starting rotation. First off, credit to Thompson for putting up with this yo-yo act and for performing very well despite all of this. It can't be that easy to keep going back and forth between a reliever and a starter, but he's handled it very, very well. Yesterday in the game in Pittsburgh, he got the start and overcame some more shady calls by a home plate umpire, which I tweeted about yesterday if you want to go see those. Some of the calls these guys are making, especially this weekend, are baffling. And I don't understand how they call certain pitches balls and other ones strikes. It's bizarre to me. But Thompson gets through it, throws 5 innings, allows 2 runs, 6 hits, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, hits a batter, allows a home run. Whether or not he would have been out there if there hadn't been a rain delay yesterday, I don't know. He was already at 90 pitches, but in the time that he was there, he did exactly what you want from your starter, and that's give you a chance to win. Ollie praised him after the game, saying to MLB.com's John Denton, he used the fastball well at the bottom and top of the zone and was able to reach back with some 96s and 97s when he needed it. The slider cutter didn't land as much as he'd like, but he got a decent amount of swing and miss, and his mix was good. Thompson, to what Ollie was talking about here, threw 47 four-seam fastballs yesterday. One of them topped out at 97.4, which you love to see. That's where they want Liberatore at. They want him living up in those levels. He threw 25 sliders or cutters, whatever you want to call them, that the Pirates swung at 11 times and missed 5 times. Thompson spoke about the slider cutter after the game, saying, I'd argue that right now it's my most comfortable pitch, and I've commanded it the best. It just gives the batter a funky look and a different look. Clayton Kershaw has shown that's a good mix, and he likes to lean heavily on his sliders, so I've taken a page out of his book, and that's pretty good book to follow if you're going to be Zack Thompson. I mean, not many left-handed pitchers are better than Clayton Kershaw. Counting the start against Colorado, Thompson has had 4 appearances here in the month of August. 3 of them were starts. He's thrown 18 innings. He's got an ERA of 3. Has struck out 23 hitters, has thrown and had walked just 3, only 3. And that was one of the problems that he had in the minor leagues, was that he was having trouble throwing strikes. And so far, in August, at least, hasn't been an issue for him whatsoever. He's allowed 18 hits, but you can understand that if you're going to be in the zone more, your pitchers are going to be a little more hittable. 3 of those went for home runs. Opponents are hitting 261 against him, but all things considered, I'm pretty pleased with the way that Zack Thompson has looked as a starter. I don't have a lot to criticize here. And if we're going to go ahead and say that it's like a 3-horse race for a spot in the rotation next year with a couple of these young guys, with Thompson and Dakota Hudson and Matthew Liberatore, the edge has got to be with Thompson and Hudson right now, especially now that Libby's on the injured list. Other notables from yesterday's game, Richie Palacios. My goodness, my man, it is Richie Palacios' world, and we're just living in it. At least during that Pittsburgh series we were. How much fun was this guy over the last couple of days? And honestly, since he's joined the team, he had 3 more hits yesterday, one of which was a bases-loaded double in the first inning that drove in 2 runs and got the Cardinals off to a good lead. And since getting called up, he's hitting .389. He's got the home run. He's got 6 RBIs, an OBP of .421, slugging .667, and his OPS at 1.088. His OPS plus is at 193, which is crazy. Who needs Dylan Carlson and Lars Nootbaar when you got a Richie Palacios? I'm kidding, of course, I think. But still, it's really been fun to watch. You know, he robs the home run, almost made a great sliding catch in center field yesterday, came up just a little bit short. I've enjoyed him. I've enjoyed him. And that's part of this whole experience at the end of the year here, is you're going to get to see guys that probably normally wouldn't have been playing on this roster. You're going to see more of them. And Richie Palacios, it's been a pleasant surprise. The Cardinals took advantage of 9 walks in the game. They had 10 hits, but they were only 3 of 12. With runners in scoring position. They left 13 runners on base again yesterday. So not the most efficient offensive performance yesterday, but Help looks like it might be on the way. It might be on the way soon for the weekend in Philly, maybe as early as Friday. We're going to talk about that next on Locked on Cardinals. Want the chance to win more money with less picks? Then head to Sleeper, the #1 sports app where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Will this Palacios party continue in Philly this weekend? Maybe you believe in it. Perhaps Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn has not hit a home run yet since getting called up. Maybe he's going to pop his first MLB home run. Maybe that's a gut feeling that you have. Well, that's where the Sleeper app comes in. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stat categories like home runs and strikeouts and hits and all your favorite ones. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Dynamic payouts are live, and with dynamic payouts also comes more stat categories to place contests on. You can get higher payouts than other apps with less picks. So use the promo code Locked On, and you can get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. That's right, a $100 match on your first deposit. That, of course, when you're using the promo code Locked On. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. The Cardinals are still on the road. They'll face the Phillies tomorrow, and you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. So the Cardinals could see the return of Nolan Gorman back into the lineup tomorrow, which is great news because the offense has been a bit since he and a lot of other guys have gone out. Gorman ranks second on the team in dingers with 24, despite being bothered at various times this year by those back issues, which has got him out right now. But he is on track to return on Friday. He was placed on the 10-day injured list on August 17th, retroactive to the 14th. He received a pain-killing injection in his back to alleviate the pain when he bends forward to field ground balls in the infield. Now, he initially injured his back in 2020 while doing deadlift sessions, and he has to adhere to a strict maintenance routine to avoid being bothered by low back pain and stiffness. Now, Gorman talked about this routine recently, saying to MLB.com, pretty much as soon as I get here, talking about the ballpark, especially on day games, it's even more important to make sure I get everything moving right. A lot of the stuff I've been doing is stuff I've done all year to try and stay on top of it. Now, I've just maybe got to do it even more. Back issues at the age of 24, not exactly what we want to hear, but hopefully they can get things ironed out and he won't miss any more time the rest of this year. And hopefully they get something figured out with a routine where he isn't bothered by this anymore, because that is something we do not want. Gorman is clearly a piece of the future of this team. He's one of the big offensive threats, specifically from the left-handed side. He brings a lot of power, and he's had such a really good year, a breakout year, considering how things went last season. And you're just hoping that this does not become something that he has to deal with every month or so. And he's got to sit out for a few games because of back tightness. So you don't want that. Also, before we wrap things up here, quick shout out to Paul DeJong. Paulie D, man, did you guys see this last night? San Francisco Giants talked about how, Toronto, things didn't go well. Rough time there. 3 for 44, 18 strikeouts, 1 RBI. Not exactly what he wanted to do with the new team. Ends up getting released, designated for assignment, then gets released. The Giants grab him, sign him up. And what does he do? He goes 3 for 5 with a 2-run home run and knocked in 4 last night, including the go-ahead hit in the 10th inning for the Giants victory. That's what you like to see. We don't want to see these guys that the Cardinals trade away just go down in flames for anybody else. And so far, everybody's had a pretty decent amount of success, except for Paul DeJong when he went to Toronto. But immediately joins the Giants and, helps produce for them and helps them get a big W. So good job, Paulie D. Keep it up, buddy. All right, thanks for making Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. Be sure to catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast for the upcoming series with the Phillies with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. It'll be Miles Michaelis getting the start on Friday night. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I'll see you next time on Locked on Cardinals.